A senior police officer in Antigua suspended amid a probe into alleged fraudulent use of passport documents in a neighboring island. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Friday, April 13th from the CMC Center, News Center in Bridgetown. I'm Ricardo Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Authorities in Antigua and Barbuda are working with their colleagues in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in an investigation into the fraudulent use of passport documents from the twin island nation. This after a man was reportedly held in St. Vincent with faked documents, and the Antigua media reported that a senior police officer was on Friday suspended with immediate effect pending the outcome of a probe into his alleged involvement in suspicious activity surrounding an Antigua and Barbuda passport. The home of Inspector Ray John was searched for 3 hours on Friday. Some undisclosed items were removed from the property, and later in the day, the senior lawman was served with a suspension letter written by the Police Service Commission. The development came on the same day that the government issued a statement in which it confirmed that a copy of the bio page from a passport purported to be of Antigua and Barbuda origin seized in St. Vincent had not been issued by the passport office. The statement said that the acting commissioner of police, the permanent secretary in the passport office, the prime minister and the cabinet secretary held a meeting on the matter and agreed on steps to carry forward the investigation. It disclosed that while 2 recent audits of Antigua and Barbuda passports have been conducted, a third be done by a reputable independent accounting firm which was not named. Additional security measures to eliminate any unlawful and unauthorized access to blank passport books have also been put in place. Meantime, the suspension of Antigua and Barbuda's top cop is being challenged. Barbadian Queen's Counsel, Sir Richard Cheltenham has given the Police Service Commission until April 20th, that's next Friday, to reinstate Commissioner of Police Wendell Robinson. He was suspended on April 5th amid an investigation into allegations that he sexually harassed 3 junior officers. But Sir Richard argued in a letter addressed to the chairman of the commission that his client's suspension was unlawful. He said the commission had no authority to suspend Robinson without having first laid a complaint or charge against him. The QC further contended that due process was not followed because Robinson was not afforded an opportunity to comment on the allegations made against him before the suspension. Staying in Antigua and Barbuda, plans are being made to allow the sale of medical marijuana products in the Twin Island nation. This was announced by Governor General Sir Rodney Williams as he delivered the throne speech on Friday, signaling the start of the new parliament less than a month after Prime Minister Gaston Browne led his Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party back into power. He said while the government would implement policies to allow medical marijuana products to be sold locally, there would be no provisions for export.
My government will also be granting a few licenses to specially selected farmers to grow cannabis for medicinal purposes. The plants will be grown, harvested and processed for the exclusive purpose of turning the vegetation into medicines that will be sold here in Antigua and Barbuda only for domestic use by residents and visitors. There will be no export of cannabis medicines. The medicines will be produced by laboratories that are specially licensed and controlled, and their products tested for standards to which they must conform. The economic benefit to our trained pharmacists, chemists, plant scientists, and others involved in the process can only be beneficial to our citizenry.
The cannabis movement in St. Lucia says there's much to celebrate about the progress made so far in advocacy for the liberalization of marijuana laws. Chairman of the movement, Andre De Caries, said the organization, which is a de facto member of the commission set up by government last March to look into decriminalization, is now offering recommendations to the government about the legalization of the herb. We get more in this HTS News report.
De Caries commended National Security Minister Senator Hermangild Francis for keeping his promise to look into the liberalization of marijuana laws. He points to the push in Grenada and St. Vincent towards decriminalization. Despite the headlines, he believes St. Lucia is ahead of its counterparts in some areas. The chairman listed some of the recommendations submitted to the commission.
The first thing we're asking is for a moratorium on incarceration. The second thing we'd like to see is an amnesty for those people languishing in prison. The third thing we'd like to see is permission for the Industrial Hemp Initiative. This is one of the milestones that we've reached. In 1998, we submitted a project proposal to the government. We're in 2018. That's 20 years we've been actually asking for permission. So this is a huge milestone.
Meanwhile, Marcus Day, director of the Caribbean Drug and Alcohol Research Institute, is adamant that individuals should not languish in prison for marijuana possession despite the current prohibition laws. In fact, he spoke of recommendations to allow the possession of limited quantities of the herb.
So if you're in possession of less than 30 grams of cannabis, you should not be arrested. It's not considered possession by the act. That's what we have recommended.
And Aaron Ras Iron Alexander, PRO of the Ionola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, ICA, argues that as long as the anti-herb laws exist on the books, the constitutional rights of followers of the Rastafari faith are being impinged.
So for the Rastafari community, we think it is high time. I mean, we are signatory, as St. Lucia is a signatory to the United Nations. There's a Declaration of Human Rights. And when it comes to human rights, this is a human rights issue as well, because we are being denied our sacramental use of the herb. And, you know, other religions have not been through such a persecution. For example, we know the Roman Catholic Church, they would use their bread and their wine. Nobody fights against that.
But marijuana consumption is only one dimension of the cannabis movement's advocacy. Like De Caries, Randall Bain has been advocating for the industrial use of hemp. But has the economic viability of the plant been measured?
We can't answer those questions specifically because of the prohibition that's been on this particular plant for all this time. We haven't had the chance or the freedom to explore and experiment and do research. And we're hoping that now this process can finally begin, because looking at other markets, whether it's Australia, Canada, and the few states in America that have already legalized it, the potential for hemp agriculture, for the creation of all kinds of fabrics from canvas right down to fine, beautiful linens, that we could, you could be making all kinds of things here.
A landmark ruling by the High Court of Trinidad and Tobago that the country's buggery laws are unconstitutional and discriminatory has renewed hope by LGBT communities across the Caribbean that anti-sodomy laws can be defeated. On Thursday, Justice Devendra Rampasad ruled that Sections 13 and 16 of the Sexual Offences Act, which makes anal sex unlawful even if consensual, are unconstitutional, illegal, null and void, invalid, and in contravention of the country's international human rights obligations. Although the law has not been struck down, the matter will be further ventilated in July when submissions are made to the court by attorneys for the state as well as for gay rights activist Jason Jones, who challenged the sections of the law. Maurice Tomlinson, a Jamaican gay rights activist and attorney, says the law in Trinidad was open to challenge because of changes made to that country's Sexual Offences Act, and he believes changes to Jamaica's own Sexual Offences Act could result in the anti-buggery laws also being declared unconstitutional. Meantime, a gay rights advocacy group in Barbados has welcomed the Trinidad and Tobago court ruling, describing it as a win for the Caribbean. The Barbados Gays, Lesbian and All Sexuals Against Discrimination, Be Glad, says the victory signifies a necessary step in the decolonization of independent Caribbean territories. The association's co-director, Ruan Mohammed, said similar laws which criminalize consenting acts of love between the adults also exist in Barbados and are relics of colonialism that have no place in the Caribbean. She is hopeful that the rest of the region will follow Trinidad and Tobago's lead so that people in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersexual and asexual community can live their lives with dignity. And coming up in Caribbean Newsline, the stepdaughter of a government minister is kidnapped and released in the space of about 6 hours. Stay with us. We have more news after the break.
Kick back, relax, enjoy the view, the boats, the scenery amidst epic parties, entertainment and nightlife. Antigua Sailing Week. Experience 7 days of non-stop bliss. Chase the race daily by land or up close by sea as the crews compete for glory. Then, when night falls, the harbor ignites. Antigua Sailing Week, April 28th to May 4th, 2018. Antigua and Barbuda. The beach is just the beginning.
From June 27 to July 1st, 2018, featuring Kester Band, Sizzla Lungi, Small Axe Band, Nyla Blackman, and Betty Wack. Also, Patti LaBelle, Dijon, New Vibes International, Rhythm of the Beat, and Wayne Wonder. Vibes, August Alsina, Aishona, Byron Messiah, Dasha, Shaka Dimas and Flyers, and Miss Lauren Hill. Save the date and book now for the 22nd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
The daughter of Trinidad and Tobago's minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General, Stuart Young, was released by kidnappers in the early hours of Friday morning, 6 hours after she was taken. Police have confirmed that 24-year-old Christina Sanka was released around 2 o'clock after a ransom was paid. Reports indicate that 167,000 TT dollars was handed over, although the kidnappers had demanded $200,000. Now, according to reports, Sanka was abducted from a friend's house in Crystal Stream, Diego Martin, around 8 p.m. on Thursday. Two armed men reportedly stormed the house and left with her in a white panel van. She was released in the Mon Coco area after the ransom was paid. Police say they have identified suspects in the crime. Former Finance Minister in Guyana, Dr. Ashney Singh, is due to appear in court on May 7th after being charged with misconduct in public office. The Special Organized Crime Unit, SOCU, laid the charge against Singh and the former head of the privatization unit of the National Industrial and Commercial Investments Limited, Winston Brassington, following investigations into the sale of 3 plots of state land. They are accused of illegally selling the land for more than 900 million Guyana dollars. We get more in this report from Royston Drakes of Capital News.
The men were jointly charged for the sale of lands to National Hardware, Multisilver Inc. and Shade's Business Corporation without having procured an evaluation of the property from a competent evaluation officer. The lands are located at Liliendal, Patterson, and Turkine. Nandalal said the charges are strange and based on his information he received, the sale was authorized by a board that governed NISIL and approved by the then PPP cabinet.
But these are bizarre and very, very strange charges, and we are entering into a dangerous arena. No government remains in power forever. And if every government is going to dedicate its energy and work towards persecuting its predecessor, then we can't move forward as a country and as a people. And none of these charges can succeed. None. And I hope that the state would be ready to pay the civil compensation suits and damages that will be awarded for the destruction of people's character and professional reputation. My client is employed in an international financial institution. When this charge hits the international media, more likely than not, he would be forced to resign.
The charges against Singh and Brassington are indictable, and Nandalal said he's unable to report what arrangements will be made for his client, Dr. Ashney Singh, to be here, while Brassington's attorney, Stanley Moore, said his immediate concern is for his client to get a fair trial.
What you have here is the criminal justice system being used as a political weapon to settle political grouses. The matter has been adjourned to the 7th of May, and both of us will need to take instructions on how we will proceed on the 7th of May.
My immediate concern is to see that the defendants get a fair trial within our judicial system, and that they, I'm sure, will be allowed to put their defense fully, and that the state will be charged with the burden of ensuring that they prove the elements of the charge which they have brought. And that's what I'm prepared to say, that our clients, or my client in particular, and I'm sure my learned friend's client as well, is here to answer those charges and to vindicate his innocence.
Participants at the People's Summit in Peru staged a protest on the streets of the capital calling for the release of former Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The People's Summit was held on the fringes of the 8th Summit of the Americas, which begins Friday night under the theme Democratic Governance Against Corruption. The Brazil High Court found da Silva guilty of corruption charges. More in this report from Richards of Canal Caribe TV in Cuba.
Hundreds of men and women, participants of the People's Summit, marched this Thursday through the Peruvian capital city's streets, demanding freedom for the popular Brazilian leader Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and reaffirming continental solidarity with Cuba and Venezuela. Popular movements, labor unions, indigenous people, feminists, juvenile organizations, political parties, and social progressive and left-wing groups of the whole American continent is looking for worldwide support to achieve the release from prison of Lula da Silva, favorite in all the opinion polls to win the coming elections in Brazil. Following the events in Lima, the President of the Republic of Peru, Martin Vizcarra, will inaugurate this Friday evening the 8th Summit of the Americas, which will be counting with the presence of heads of states and governments of the region, and whose main theme of debate will be governance and fight against corruption.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, another call for the urgent intervention of regional governments in the management of West Indies cricket. Stay with us. Sport is next.
This is the plaintiff, Grumpy. He's suing for medical expenses for falling down a flight of stairs after helping a sister out with her grocery bags. He's suing for a total of $10,000. This is the defendant, Keisha Watkins. She claims he was drunk and spilled all the contents of her bags. Not to mention, she never asked for his help. This is the case of they all fall down.
You call him and you need that's your owner. You investigate that.
I'm Dustin, owner of Nice Brewing Company, and we welcome the Mad Fisherman, Charlie Moore.
Nice brewery. My first reaction, not what I was expecting. It's kind of like a full-fledged brewery on a farm.
Before we do any type of brewing here at the Nice Brewing Company, apparently we have to feed the pigs.
Like I said, we're brewing beer on a farm in Limerick, Maine.
It doesn't make any sense at all to me. What the hell are we doing?
There's an island just beyond the horizon, waiting for you to explore its deep treasures. Experience this and more at the Barbados Reggae Festival. 4 of the biggest reggae events, April 22nd to 29th, featuring the superstars of reggae, Maxi Priest, JC Lodge, Everton Blender, Johnny Osborne,
No ice cream sound,
Queen Ifrica, Ja Cure,
anytime you need a love, call on me.
Anthony B, Taurus Riley,
But anytime you decide if you pack up your things and leave, don't come back.
Idonia,
Yeah.
and many more. Purchase your event tickets from ticketlinks.com. For more details, follow Barbados Reggae Festival on Facebook or Instagram. Barbados, always on.
Regional academic luminary and cricket aficionado Sir Hilary Beckles is calling for the urgent intervention of regional governments in the management of the game. In a statement on Friday, the University of the West Indies Vice-Chancellor said CARICOM is duty-bound to intervene to protect and promote West Indies cricket for the benefit of future generations. Sir Hilary said, quote, "It is obvious to all at home and abroad that the governance of West Indian cricket has reached a perilous state and that the place where there was once universal respect is now riddled with ridicule. It would be a dereliction of duty if governments were to sit passively and allow the public good that is cricket culture to be further diminished and destroyed. West Indians have made their greatest single cultural investment in cricket and governments are duty-bound to protect this investment and assure appropriate returns." End quote. The Vice-Chancellor said the current system of governance and accountability at CWI is not fit for purpose. He said it is dysfunctional at the management and operational levels and is in urgent need of reform. And Sir Hilary warned that without appropriate and urgent intervention, the culture of cricket will continue to wither on the vine and die as an element of excellence in Caribbean civilization. Now alluding to the Patterson report authored by Jamaican Prime Minister P.J. Patterson and commissioned by the then WICB back in 2007, Sir Hilary said the report remained the place of necessary intervention. That report called for the implementation of a council of stakeholders comprising 23 members who would determine policies and strategies and provide guidance for the development of West Indies cricket. Sir Hilary said the rejection of this vital recommendation, despite earlier agreement, has resulted in the worsening of the affairs of West Indies cricket, and it has deteriorated in every aspect in the eyes of the public and stakeholders. He believes direct interventions by governments in their roles as honest brokers of last resort are consistent with approved principles of popular democracy. The situation today, he says, is one of last resort. It is now or never. West Indies stroke maker Shea Hope has described being named one of Wisden's 5 cricketers of the year as humbling and has praised the phenomenal effort which he saw the Caribbean side stun England in the second test at Leeds last August. The 24-year-old Barbadian was announced on Wednesday along with Essex fast bowler Jamie Porter and England Women's World Cup winning trio of Heather Knight, Anya Shrubsole and Nat Skiver as the prestigious Almanac's top choices in international cricket for the last year. He said the victory meant more than his personal achievement, especially following the Caribbean side's crushing defeat in the first test at Birmingham when they went down by an innings and 209 runs inside 3 days. Hope was selected on the basis of his outstanding performance in the Leeds test when he became the first batsman in 127 years of first-class cricket at Headingley to score a century in both innings. He had fashioned 147 in the first innings and returned with an unbeaten 118 in the second as West Indies chased down 322 to win by 5 wickets and level the 3-match series 1 apiece. Over to action in the Commonwealth Games. Frederick Dacres and Daniel Thomas Dodd took Jamaica's gold count to 6 and the overall medal tally to 22 on the 6th day of track and field competition at the Commonwealth Games on Friday. The 24-year-old posted a new record en route to winning the men's discus with a throw of 68.20 meters, while Thomas Dodd broke the national record as she captured the women's shot put gold with a throw of 19.36 meters. Meantime, in the women's sprint hurdles, former world champion Danielle Williams took silver after crossing the finish line in 12.78 seconds, and her Jamaican teammate Yannick Thompson won bronze with a run of 12.97 seconds. Olowatu Biloba Amusan of Nigeria won the gold in 12.68 seconds. And meanwhile, Jamaican Genevieve Russell won gold, while Karen McMaster of the British Virgin Islands snatched the men's title as the Caribbean swept the 400-meter hurdles finals on Thursday. The 24-year-old Russell clocked 54.33 to cross the line first, while McMaster was timed at 48.25 in his triumph. McMaster led the Caribbean sweep off the podium as Bahamian Jeffrey Gibson clocked a season's best 49.10 for silver and Jamaican Jaleel Hyde 49.16 for the bronze. And that's the sports. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Coming up on 21st Century. As the UN mission in Liberia leaves, lasting peace stays on. And in Lebanon, fostering the right to play for refugee children.
Again, the major developments of this day: a senior police officer in Antigua suspended amid a probe into alleged fraudulent use of passport documents in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And in sport, UB Vice Chancellor Hilary Beckles calls for the urgent intervention of regional governments in the management of West Indies cricket. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports round the clock, log on to CarnaNews.com. We'll be back here again on Monday, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Have yourselves a good night.